Nice to be here. This is my first time in Ananda, South Bay. And I'm really happy to be here and share with you about Education for Life. As you all know, this is a philosophy, I'm assuming you know, this is a philosophy by Swami Ananda, based on the teachings of his guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, our guru, Paramhansa Yogananda. I just want to start with asking one question. How many of you have read Education for Life, the book Education for Life? Okay. Well, I highly recommend it because it's one of the most beautiful philosophies I have come across, and it's a whole world of its own if you want to learn how to truly bring up your children in the right way. And it also helps us to learn how we can manage our, even as adults, how we can manage our emotions, or how do we handle ourselves when we, get into the trap of ego. So it's just really helpful, but more along the side of education. It's really transformational for the children that are there. The Ananda Living Wisdom schools, we have around 5 or 6 schools currently in the whole world. 1 in Italy and 3 or 4 in the United States. And then in India we had some many years back, but after a year of successful running, we had to close it down because of financial troubles. And so it started off too big, actually. It was supposed to start that small and then carry on. Anyways, but we are trying to start another school in India soon. So my journey has been this way, that many years back when I was a teenager, Swami Ananda invited me to come to the United States and study at one of these Living Wisdom schools. And my first experience was with the high school students that had come from California to India on their study abroad trip. So I got to meet them, and the first thought that I had was, these students, they were like my age, similar age. My first thought was, these students are so mature, and they're so happy in themselves. And so I was instantly attracted. I was like, I want to be part of that school, and I want to be like them. So, and I didn't even express this to Swamiji, but we were having a tea with him, and he just came up to me and said, do you want to go to America? I said, yes, Swamiji. So then just a few months later, I came to America, and I started my journey here as a high school student. And I learned a lot about, the mottos of the school were service, adventure, and self-discovery. So, and then later excellence got added to it. But I learned a lot about being serviceful to others, not just people around me, my family and friend circle, but people outside the school, like let's say at a school for special needs. That's what we did. We did service projects. We learned, I feel that students at the Living Wisdom School learned a lot about, bringing their energy. You wouldn't imagine children learning it so early, but that's what we did in the Living Wisdom Schools. We always thought of bringing our energy back in the calm center within ourselves, and then from there making our decisions, making our choices, deciding how to concentrate, how to get the problem done, how to work collaboratively. Many a times we would work together on doing an experiment or a project, and it was so harmonious at the school. It was just mind-boggling. I mean, many years later, I realized that when I entered college in India, after the high school, I realized there was so much of a competition in India, and the students were just, they were acting like friends. Okay, there were genuine friendships, but I noticed that some students would act like friends, but they really weren't friends. And they were at it, just, how competition is. You don't want the other person to succeed, you want yourself to succeed and be better in the eyes of the teacher and so on. But that's the thing I really appreciated about the Living Wisdom high schools, that we got to learn how to care for each other, how to be friends with each other. And that's because always the main emphasis was on how to be happy at all times, and or how to bring yourself back into a space of happiness so that you can be a better friend. If you're upset, you're not going to be a good friend. But if you're calm and if you're joyful in yourself, then you can share that joy with your friends, and you can care for them, and you can guide them and help them. So I really found that to be a beautiful quality which I learned at the school. And there were times when it was really hard because somebody would say something, and it wouldn't be the highest thing, but that happens many times in life. But this is more what I'm talking of is like out later when I graduated from school, when I graduated from college and started working. I worked as a teacher in a private international school in Pune, and it was working under a lot of pressure. And but then my goal was, I don't want to be in a competitive atmosphere. I want to be in an atmosphere, even for the students in that school, like for example, second graders were asked to do so much, and nobody would pay attention to their physical needs, that they have to, that their children, that they should actually run outside on the ground at least 20 minutes a day. No, nothing like that. That's bulls. So nobody paid attention to the physical needs, and academics was just like top 30 minutes back-to-back classes, and they've got to write so much, they've got to finish these many classwork sheets, and it was crazy, really. That's the term I would use. But those kids had that karma to go through such a schooling. A lot of children in India go through such schooling where the academics are just the only thing that parents care about and educators care about. But at living wisdom schools, instead of that, we have techniques on how to improve your concentration. And then there's this very interesting thing, not just to get maximum productivity out of children, but more to give them the tools to do what they really want to do with their life, to really give them the tools to succeed at what they want to succeed at. A child may be good at athletics, but that doesn't mean that he has to be good at academics also. Maybe they're just purely athletic minded or athletically abled, but not academically so gifted. So the living wisdom schools in general, over the years, I feel that's what my understanding was since the beginning, that if you have a strength, your teachers are going to really support you to develop that one strength, even if that's the only one. They're going to really support you with that one strength, so that you can blossom and you can make something out of that in your life. And then some years later I realized that's not exactly the definition of educational life, but at least I felt like my strengths were really encouraged and my weaknesses weren't really looked at. And so I felt always so happy with my education at Living Wisdom School. And then later, many years later, I took the training, the Education for Life teacher training. And sorry, I just remembered something. So there's this cycle. Before I go on to my teacher training, I became an Education for Life teacher after some years. I took training and returned just recently and started working with the schools and with the school in Nevada City. At an Education for Life school, what you'll see is that the teachers are so patient with the children. Usually you'll see them really accepting of the children, of their natures, whoever they are. And that makes them joyful. That makes them feel safe and happy instead of being judged for what they can do or what they know academically, which is what happens in the schools outside. So once the child feels safe and secure, then they're set to, okay, I can do this. I can solve 10 questions or 100 questions or however many questions that is, or, So, and once they're able to then, every little problem or every big problem then seems just like a challenge, a fun challenge. I can dare to do this, and I can really do a lot with my knowledge. And even if they're not able to do a lot, they're just accepted and they feel loved by the teacher. And that's the one thing, after my teacher training, I held on to in India. I knew I was not at an Education for Life school, but I knew that if I'm able to love my students and if I'm able to teach them how to be kind to each other, that I have done Education for Life. So I was not worried about anything else.